Hey UConn Nation, it's KK Arnold here. If you're looking for the latest UConn women's basketball content, go subscribe to Listen Up to Phil and Ryan. Go Huskies!
All right, Ryan. So I want to start out YouTube. I like how YouTube has they capture images of us, just short clips of videos. I was going through the videos this morning. So grateful for everybody and their support. But I'm like, one of them has them pointing to you. I'm pointing like saying, "All right, tell this man happy birthday." It's fun. You just go through and look at the little clips that YouTube captures. I'm like, man, I have to joke around with Ryan this morning. I'm like, man, Ryan, we have to make sure that we don't accidentally stick the middle finger up at each other during the. No, I'm just kidding, man. But welcome back. It's great to be back with you on a weekend. Sometimes we complain about going on Saturdays and Sundays, but I don't see any complaining out of you so far. And not only that, complaining, not a lot at all. I see maybe a lot of nerves out of you. Just very quickly before we get down into this great, we'll call this a Geno Auriemma week because these
Yeah,
back-to-back episodes that we're going to have, right, are both of them about Geno. That's what happens when you're a legendary person, a legendary coach, when you affect people in a positive way on and off the court. These awards start to be named after you. So, and I think we'll get into that in just a second. But speaking on your behalf, I want to shout out to you. I can't even remember, you might not even been alive since the Magic and your Florida Panthers have been in the playoffs at the same time. So, oh boy, that kicks off today at 1 o'clock. So shout out to you on that one. NBA and NHL in the back of your mind for sure. Hopefully within the next over a month to come.
yeah, it's definitely a little nerve-wracking. Of course, I love my state of Florida, so got to rep my teams. Been a Magic and Panther fan for quite some time now, so definitely really excited to see both of them in the playoffs, and glad I get to watch them this week. So hopefully they can make it all the way. But either way, I'm looking forward to watching them. But definitely definitely starting to feel the nerves a little bit.
All right. I wanted to thank everybody back home here in Frederick, Maryland for the support, stuff that more personal stuff that I've been working on, Ryan, profiles and stuff. The reason I say that, I was talking to someone, we were just using Gino as an example. And this person asked me, he says, I'm working on a profile, Ryan, of someone and a profile story. And this person had asked me, he said, just for example, he said, what if you use Gino in a profile story? He said, who are you going to, right, to ask? Because usually we just don't quote that main character, that main person we're writing about. We go to, who can I go to that knows Gino the best? Maybe his assistant coaches, maybe the former players that has been in UConn, right? Maybe the Paige Bueckers, maybe some of the KK Arnold, maybe some of them that are on the roster now. So in other words, and we got into the conversation, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, and I told this person I'm talking to about Gino, I'm like, well, I said, yeah, but Gino, he's probably starting to get into the near the back half or the back end of his career. It's probably starting to come to a close. And he goes, well, do you know that for sure? And I'm like, I've had to think about it, and I'm like, no, I don't. So here we are. I find it weird because the last year, 2 or 3, we're sitting here, you and I, reading different comments from our subs and people that come through, and we appreciate everyone's point of view. But Ryan, there's nothing out there that's saying that he's coming to a close in this beautiful chapter, this beautiful basketball career that he's had coaching. He might be around 5+ more years. We don't know. So, but the most important thing today is, Ryan, I wanted to put my focus on the U.S. Basketball Writers Association announced Wednesday, right, that it will name its annual Women's National Coach of the Year award after UConn's Geno Auriemma, and that was credit NBC CT NBC for that. We thank them, Ryan. So what do you think? NBC Connecticut, thank you for them bringing us that information. What do you think, Ryan? I'll go ahead and give you my take, and then I'll shut up, I promise. Very quickly, for you to run off of this, I think it's very important, to say the least. As much as you and I are into sports, think about it this way. I sometimes look back at awards that are won by different athletes, right? And it just, not in basketball, but any sport. And I'm like, man, who is this person that this award is named after? I'm not saying, especially people in UConn, you and I, never going to forget Geno. But Ryan, how about generations from now? People that are say not that much into sports, let's make sure that they don't forget who Geno Auriemma is. And that's why I think this is so big. You're naming an award that has not been named after anybody else. I think I'm right on that. And
Yeah.
basically, what this is I don't know if you agree or not, you're cementing his legacy, you're cementing his name for generations to come, after he's gone, not only from, basketball, but you know what I mean. We hope he's around for years and years to come. But yeah, you understand it's not only to me, I think it's so important. It's not only for people that necessarily pay attention to basketball or sports in general. It's for making sure that we just don't forget him, period.
Well, Gino has definitely left behind quite some legacy with all the stats and awards, of course, that he's acquired over his now 39 seasons at UConn. But yeah, I think that it's good to kind of take it to a deeper level and kind of acknowledge how big this is. Maybe it's smaller news to some people, but I think if you really think about it, it is, really big news to get an award named after you. And I like how you talked about how, the next couple generations for however long now and women's basketball are going to see this, Coach of the Year award and, all the great coaches who hopefully win this award now in the future. And I think it's a great thing for Gino to have an award named after him. And I definitely think it's long overdue that this was the only award that presented by the USBWA that was unnamed, of course, up to this point. Now, of course, named after Gino. And like I said, all the accomplishments Gino's achieved through his now 39 full seasons at UConn, definitely well deserved to have this Coach of the Year award named after him. An award that he's actually won 6 times himself, which is the most by any other coach. And talking about all these accomplishments, I mean, we're talking about 23 Final Four appearances, 11 national championships, 6 perfect seasons, 2 gold medals, 2 FIBA World Championships, and not to mention he has 1,213 wins, which is only 3 behind Tara Vanderveer, who actually retired about a month ago, I guess already. So this is this is definitely well deserved, and hopefully we get to see a lot more of these winning seasons from Coach Gino and these Huskies, along with a lot more awards. Because, like you said, we could see Gino coach for 5 or 10 plus years. Nobody really knows how long Coach Gino has left.
Yeah, there's been no hints thrown at us, so we don't want to, put something out there that's like just totally random, right? Because we don't know. We don't know. We hope he's here for 5, 10 plus more years. Maybe he's still got a left in the tank. Maybe he sees something that we don't. I'm sure everybody sees success, obviously, in this team. But Ryan, the women's coaching, and again, credit NBC Connecticut for this. Listen to this: the women's coaching award had been, excuse me, the only unnamed award presented by the USBWA. So now all awards have a name behind them. The National Player of the Year receives the Ann Myers Drysdale Award, right, Ryan? And the National Freshman of the Year receives the Tamika Catchings Award. So, Ryan, I think that now, no disrespect to the other two, Drysdale and Tamika Catchings, I think they can kind of scoot over, and I think we know the biggest name as far as this little populated awards ceremony that they do, or the 3 of them now that belong in this elite company. I think we know who's number 1 now when it comes to these 3 awards. The names that is behind them.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy to compete with Gino in terms of everything that I just named that he's accomplished over his career. But it's just I guess it's just UConn culture to be on top, but we're always standing on number 1, despite in a national championship drought, but always find a way throughout all the success to have our names put out there and be on top. So. Gotta love the UConn culture.
How would you like, Ryan? And even if after, before, after, we don't care when, we're grateful for everybody to join us. How would you like, Ryan? Just think, I just want to see your face light up right now while it's recording, to be able to sit down and speak to Gino on this podcast. Oh my goodness. I knew your head would be like, I don't even know what to say if that would happen. Let's get down in the comments, Ryan, and then we will head on out of here. Paige Bueckers plays role of proud mama at the WNBA draft. Ryan, Jason D'Amico, let's roll with the elite company here on Listen Up. I'm just kidding. Everybody's elite. Ponder for a moment before this year is over. Nika and Aaliyah will have two different uniforms on playing against each other. I can't laugh out loud. That's Jason D'Amico.
Yeah, it is going to be a little weird watching them in the WNBA now. Of course, we watched them all 4 years, grow up here at UConn, and kind of just grow into the players they are now, and really expand their careers. So it really is great to see, and I can't wait to follow them and all the other Huskies that we have already in the WNBA. But yeah, it's definitely going to be really exciting. And like I said, hopefully when the Storm come to Washington, we can hit up a game and watch both of them in person.
Rick said, you guys want to talk about Paige Bueckers, and that's fine. I've been watching her since high school, and the girl can ball. Shooting, defense, passing, court knowledge is unbelievable. Unbelievable. However, if Paige does not find some type of killer instinct to take over a game consistently, instead of slow motion pace she plays from start to finish, her team will never win the national championship. No doubt she is great, but she does not seem to be able to really pull out that. Okay, well, he leaves some explicit content here, Ryan. So I'll just say that that kind of attitude that's like, we talked about it before in the beginning of the podcast, like putting your middle finger up, but I'll go on. I'm sure you understand. I'm taking over this game, so get with me or get out of my way. So according to Rick, Paige does not have that type of attitude. I have looked at her coach, who seems to get furious with her for that same reason. I see that she overcame injury-wise, but she needs the ability like an MJ or Steph Curry to just click it in 100th gear and go. I pray to see that in 2025. Well, I will say one thing very quickly, Ryan. You take not pressure. What's the word I'm looking for? You take I don't know. You take the heat. I guess you take the heat 99% of the time from different folks out there. Meaning, if you're too aggressive, you're gonna take the heat. If you're not aggressive enough, you're going to take the heat. Someone is going to always say something. For example, Angel Reese. I love the way she played the game in college. I love that, with her winning the national championship, kind of, that attitude she had in the national championship against Clark last year. I love that kind of style. You're obviously you have the right to kind of show off a little bit and talk that trash talk like we always talk about. Again, you got to know when it's best to do that and when not to, but there's going to always be someone that either says something negative or positive.
Yeah, and it's a very good comment. Of course, I think, in my opinion, we have seen that out of Paige from her freshman year in March Madness. The way she took over that Elite Eight win, I believe it was over Stanford. It might have been another team, but that double overtime Elite Eight win, and the Final Four win, that insane run that UConn went on, and just Paige being a freshman and kind of stepping up, and we had three fantastic seniors on the team. I think Paige showed off some of that killer instinct that they were talking about. But the injuries, of course, slowed down Paige a little bit and didn't really allow her to show that off in those kind of 2 seasons in the middle where she struggled with those unfortunate injuries. But again, this season, it took her a little while to get acclimated again, but I think she had a very good regular season, and I think in the postseason she showed off some of that. But I do agree that she can be a little bit more aggressive, and I know Gino's talked about it throughout this past season how he wants to see Paige be more aggressive and be a little bit more selfish. But like I said before, and like you kind of said it, it's kind of really hard to find that balance between setting up your teammates and making sure that they all eat, as I like to say, and do good on the court. Because Paige has a lot of really talented teammates, and that's just kind of her style and personality. She wants to set up all of her teammates for greatness as well. But Paige is such a great player that she can score and do a lot of great things herself. So I think she can kind of find that right balance where she knows, okay, this is a time where I need to take over this game, or another time where I need to start setting up my teammates some more. So I think if we can see that in her final year here, I think we're in for a pretty good treat this upcoming season.
I just want to remind you and Rick and everybody else that when I watched the post game press conference, the last one of the season, the loss against Iowa, Ryan. I mean, it's a question for you. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. Just answer it obviously, like always, truthfully. I just want to remind everybody, Gino had spoke about under the circumstances UConn was in all season. They really didn't have any business being in that game. Not to quote him, but somewhere around there, he had said no business in that situation or in that game against Clark like they were. So my question for you is just make sure that you realize, Rick and everybody else, would they? I'm not saying I know or I don't know. I'm asking everybody and you. So comment away. Would they have dominated the Big East tournament like they did without Paige? And would they have made it to that postseason game against Caitlin Clark without Paige? I mean, if you want me to tell you, I'll say no. I'll say no right now. And this has nothing to do with my love for Paige Bueckers and the UConn Huskies. Brian, this could be a different podcast. I would still say the same thing.
Yeah, and I would probably have to say no as well. Of course, we have to remember that Aaliyah Edwards went out for the final two games of the Big East tournament, and I do believe Paige was the leading scorer in both of those games. And I think Paige was the kind of the leading scorer in a lot of these March Madness games. But of course, we always had a player, it seemed like, that stepped up, like Ashlyn Shade, or Aaliyah Edwards, beside Paige Bueckers. But of course, you bring up a good point a lot during the season, how last year in UConn's loss to Ohio State in the Sweet 16, of course, we did not have Paige Bueckers for that season. And of course, she comes back and UConn advances to yet another Final Four appearance. So, yeah, I would probably have to say no as well.
All right, one more, Ryan. Let's go to Uncle Phil and cousin. Oh, he didn't put Rise. Uncle Phil and cousin. Okay. UConn Nation says, here's a video from Paige's breakout game when she was just in 8th grade. Hopkins was a ranked team back then as well. It's almost impossible to play on varsity as a freshman, let alone in 8th grade. Even then, she showed the Paige fire. Enjoy. Ryan. Okay, so he leaves your name at the end. Maybe this video is just for Ryan to watch. Maybe I've watched enough highlights of Paige Bueckers, so this one's just for Ryan. But no, in any way, Ryan, I tell you, and it actually, now that he says that, it actually makes you and I smile a lot, right? Because we still go around to see the Huskies when we can play in person. And boy, do we still see not the UConn jerseys being broke out, but her actual Hopkins High School jersey still being worn. And that's, man, deep roots, right? We know where it all started, where it really started.
Well, of course, we've all known that Paige has been a special player ever since high school. That's why she was the #1 player in the country. And of course, we're we're so glad Gino was able to recruit her to come to UConn. But of course, if you're from Hopkins, of course you got to represent. That's pretty special if you were able to watch her, of course, around the area, and even if you weren't, to watch her while she was still in high school. And it's kind of fun to watch her throughout all of college now and kind of develop into the player she was. But years ago, back then, just as an eighth grader, I think everybody already knew what special player Paige Bueckers already was.
All right, Ron, I want to leave you with this. The great, the amazing. I love this guy so much, man. I really do. I wish he was still around, to be honest with you, Ryan. I mean, people that you talk about, you really want to meet and make an impact on your life and that bring you to tears, right? When you probably think I'm talking about Gino. Yeah, I'm talking about Gino too, but Ryan Jackie Robinson, the great Jackie Robinson. I wish he was still around so you and I could meet him, Ryan. Talk about some tears out of the eyes. A life, he said, a life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives. And that's what I think really goes behind this announcement, Ryan. Again, Geno Auriemma, the Women's Coaching Award, to be named after UConn's Geno Auriemma. A life well spent and still a lot more years to come, hopefully in UConn, Ryan. A very successful legacy being unfolded before our very own eyes. You and I, and a lot of other people seeing it right here on Listen Up.